Hello and welcome to Oh the Horror, where we all go a little mad sometimes. I am Jack Ellis.
And I'm Matt Ellis.
And today we will be reviewing the 2013 remake of the 1976 Brian De Palma classic, Carrie. This film stars Chloe Grace Moretz, Judy Greer, who you might know from the David Gordon Green Halloween trilogy, and also Julianne Moore. Let's just get into it. In the opening scene, Carrie's radical, religious, and overzealous mother, Margaret, is seen giving birth to Carrie while praying for strength. There is no medical equipment, healthcare, staff, or anything, but Margaret is just giving birth by herself. As soon as possible, Carrie is born with Margaret, and Margaret tries to kill Carrie because she was born out of wedlock, but changes her mind last minute. This opening scene, it's fine to me. I will go ahead and preface this with a couple thoughts. I did actually not choose this movie this week. Matt did, and he did because it's the first horror movie he ever saw and what got him into the genre. Now, I would not take the experience away from anybody. Personally, that movie for me was John Carpenter's Halloween, which we've already talked about. But for me personally, this movie kind of misses the mark, and I'll try to be as respectful as possible, but yeah, my earliest memory with this movie was our movie theater had this giant frickin' 30-foot poster of it in the movie theater, and whenever we'd go to see a movie, if I went to see, like, Rise of the Guardians or some shit, I'd always have to be scared to go out into the bathroom because that, big face covered in pig's blood would be staring at me. And
I mean, it was the biggest movie poster I have ever seen.
Yeah, it was insane. But yeah, this scene to me is just all right. It's fine. That's really all I can say. What do you think?
It was really unexpected. Like, you never really the opening scene to be a woman giving birth in her own home with absolutely no one else or no medicine or anything around. It's like, yeah, I didn't see that coming. I'll give it to him.
Yeah. And we then move on to Carrie, she's a high school senior, right?
Yes.
Like, she goes to prom. And she is an outcast and is always visibly nervous around school, probably because she is always picked on. Carrie is actually playing water polo in gym class, but embarrasses herself with how poorly she does. She unexpectedly has her first period in the shower and panics because she was never told about it. She pleads for help, but her classmates, but they instead film her freaking out, laugh at her, and throw various feminine products at her. The gym teacher, Miss Desjardins, steps in to help Carrie and stops the taunting while this is going on. Carrie causes the locker room lights to flicker, first showing her powers. This scene is, in both the original and this one, it's a very hard scene to watch just because of how cruel the act is. Because, for all she knows, she could be bleeding to death, and everybody around her is just mocking her during that. And so, though some will go on to defend their actions for doing this, others will feel incredibly bad about it. And that shows an interesting light on the typical school boys. Um, Harry is then brought to the principal's office with the gym teacher. She is not in any trouble, but they say they have to tell her mom what happened. She panics again and causes her telekinesis to shatter a glass water cooler in the office. She then leaves and is seen riding home with her mother. I do like this scene. In the original, it was just an ashtray that flipped over, which seems sort of underwhelming now. But the water cooler thing is pretty cool, and it's always nice to see in any variation, whether it be this movie, the original. I believe there was a sequel, and also a TV remake in 2002. Just seeing the gym teacher be one of the few people in the world who is actually nice to her, and those sort of things are, few and far between for her, and you can see why she's so nervous. What do you have to say about these two scenes?
I thought that they were definitely worth talking about, like where Carrie just, it's so, you really, even though it's fictional, you really do have to feel bad for her, the way she just, she thought she was bleeding to death, and she was scared for her life, humiliated, thought she was dying naked on a locker room floor. It's like, and the girls just they just videotaped it and made fun of her. It's like, that of course was pretty rough, and one of the things I really wonder about this movie, though, is how exactly they got away with that scene, because Chloe Grace Moretz, she was actually 15 when this movie was made, and I know they didn't actually show anything, but the fact that all she really had covering her was a towel.
Yeah, there's a scene earlier in the shower where she's like washing her body, and I was sort of I guess this was pre Harvey Weinstein era, and you could just get away with that shit with little to no consequences.
I mean, yeah, and like I said, they didn't actually show her fully. She was always censored somehow, but I always thought that kind of thing just really wasn't allowed at all. And another fun fact about the movie is that this was actually the first Carrie movie where the person who played Carrie was actually a teenager.
Yeah, I remember, Sissy Spacek was, really freaking old when she played Carrie. I don't remember her exact age, but I know it was, I don't remember. It was just one of the older things.
Yeah, and there were two versions of it made before this. Both actresses were at least in their 20s, so yeah, this one was definitely new in that sense.
Yeah, and I don't know when to bring this up, but I had never seen this movie until last night, and I will say I don't really like Chloe Grace Moretz's performance. I like the writing of her character, and I think she does a great job, but all the time she's just constantly in a position that just is sort of the, hey, look at how shy and nervous and awkward I am. That's just always what she looks like. There's never a free minute of that. I get that was sort of what it was like in the other couple of movies, but for this one, it's just so unsubtle, in my opinion, that it just sort of brought me out of the experience. I didn't actually know that she was a teenager when this was filmed, but it does sort of make sense. And Yeah, that's just sort of my opinion on it, but I don't want to go on too long about that. When they get home, Carrie calls her mom for not telling her about how her body works and saving her the humiliation. Her mother responds with hostility and tells her she has crossed some sort of threshold of being an evil woman and locks her in a closet meant for Carrie to spend hours praying in. While she's in there, she uses her telekinesis to make a crack in the door and has blood shed from the Jesus statue. Carrie soon starts researching about supernatural powers in school and at home. Meanwhile, the video taken by her bully, Chris Hagenson, floats around the school of Carrie fearing for her life while lying naked on a locker room floor. This is never mind. But anyway, now that we're in the computer age, and when this movie came out, the bullies are a lot more cruel with things like cyberbullying. And I think for the story, if you want to bring something like cyberbullying into the mix, this would be the way to do it. Because it's not like, Carrie's religious nut mom would ever have a computer in the house. So I like that aspect of it. And her actually researching her powers is a pretty interesting plot point. And this part of the movie, I don't have much to say about it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. What have you thought about the past couple scenes? I'm sorry I didn't ask you.
Oh, that's fine. One of the things I thought that was really interesting about Carrie with her telekinesis is that she was always excited and intrigued by what she could do. Like, it never scared her what she was capable of, and I think that was probably because the telekinesis gave her a sense of power and control that she never had before. She was always a victim and a punching bag, like wherever she went. And, now here she has the ability to, make things float, to break things, so without moving a muscle. So, that was just sort of my thinking on it. Like, most teenagers, if they had the ability to do the supernatural, it would scare the crap out of me. But with her, it was different. And kind of I do like how this movie did like hold up a mirror to things like cyberbullying, like you were talking about. It's that really is an issue, because this movie showed how, you're right, anybody can easily upload a video of any sort of incident, like like what happened to Carrie online. And it's that's pretty scary, because that's gonna just murder your reputation. And it's like, there was one incident I remember hearing about where there was this one 13-year-old boy who was bullied a lot, and this one girl actually, like, Facebook messaged him pretending to be a girl who was interested in him, so she got him to, really be vulnerable and tell her a bunch of stuff he normally wouldn't have. And then she actually showed the messages he sent her to everybody, and that actually caused for him to take his own life. And so as a result, the dad now spends his time going around lobbying for bullying to stop. And it's like that, that kind of stuff. It was a lot worse like 10 years ago, like when it first started, I guess since then they've been really cracking down on it, trying to minimize that kind of stuff happening. I mean, because nowadays you can go to jail for stuff like that, but yeah, it's back then it really was a scary thing if you were a parent or a teenager. So yeah, I'll quit rambling now.
It's fine. These are what podcasts are for. The gym teacher decides to punish the women who humiliated Carrie by giving them excessive exercises to do in gym with the threat of being suspended if they do not comply, which means they cannot go to prom. Chris later stood up to the teacher and was suspended and thus unable to go to her senior prom. When Chris and her dad go to the principal about this, Chris was asked to give them her phone to prove that she did not take the video of Carrie, but when Chris refused, she was suspended. Carrie's main other bully, Sue Snell, tries to make amends with Carrie by having her boyfriend, Tommy Ross, take Carrie to prom, rather than her. He reluctantly agrees, but Carrie actually thinks he is just asking her as a joke and even sobs in the locker room. The gym teacher finds her and convinces her to accept the invitation, and she does. So Sue Snell and Tommy Ross are two of the few redeeming characters in this movie. Tommy Ross is, of course, played by Ansel Elgort, who starred in one of my favorite movies of all time, Baby Driver. And, he's just, he's the stereotypical high school jock, but you can tell he's really not like the others. He has a good heart, and that's sort of what makes the ending so heartbreaking. Is he, wasn't a part of any of that. But I'll save that for later.
It was also weird how he was the famous jock for playing lacrosse.
Yeah,
like what are the odds?
I mean, I went to a school that lacrosse was the big thing because we didn't have a football team, but I don't know. Now, I do like the scene because, in a movie like this, it's always sort of fun to see the bullies get their just desserts in ways that don't involve fire. And so I do like that, the teacher was sort of bringing the hammer down on them. And I do have friends at my school that are like, I'm going to leave early. What are they going to do about it? Punish us? And I'm like, yeah, bitch, that's exactly what they're going to do. And, that's sort of the energy I got from this. And, so I like this part of the movie just because of, most people by this point had already seen the 1976 film and know how it ends up, and seeing all these people who were just trying to do the right thing end up getting hurt in the end, and that's always kind of hard to see.
And one thing we forgot about is that even the teachers, a lot of them were mean to Carrie, because the English teacher was even a dick to her in front of the whole class.
That guy was just a dickhead. How did they even, how do you get away with that, I would, but, yeah, that teacher, he was kind of he was a dickhead, and I didn't like him. But after the next few days, Carrie actually makes her dress herself at home while grappling with her mother about her both going to prom with a boy and having telekinetic powers. She is able to keep her mom at bay by threatening her with these powers. It is revealed during an argument that her powers are genetic and that her dad and grandmother had them. Her mom still thinks they are of the devil, though. Chris and her boyfriend Billy, along with a couple of Billy's friends, hatch a scheme to get back at Carrie, which starts by sneaking to a farm and killing a pig in cold blood. They then take the pig's blood, put it in a bucket, sneak it into the school gym, and rig the bucket to fall on Carrie when she is crowned prom prom queen. These bullies are kind of sociopaths.
Yeah.
I'll say that. Like, them killing the pigs and stuff, that was pretty harsh. And I believe there's a scene in here where the mom is getting compliments about work she did on a dress, and whilst that happens, she like stabs herself and says, "Are any of us really good?" And
right, she's doing this while the Sue Snell, one of the bullies from the video, her mom is apologizing to Carrie's mom on behalf because of her behavior.
Yeah, and I think we've all known a person like this, to less of an extreme, whether it's fueled by religion or just lack of confidence, that they cannot take a compliment without, or, she seriously has to compliment, or she has to, like, supplement any nice things said about her with actual physical pain to balance the scales, I guess you could say. Which, the religious aspect of the mother, even though it was, like, really bad in the original, I think is laid on a little thick in this movie. This part, not so bad, but in other parts, it is. And that's no disrespect against Julianne Moore, but that's just my opinion.
That may have also been why. Like, I know that the movie kind of implied, and I think even the mother said that she planned to kill Carrie as an infant because she was born out of wedlock, but it may have also been that she figured Carrie would have telekinetic powers because the dad did, and that may have been why she wanted to do it.
Yeah, maybe. Next night, it's prom night, and Carrie is narrowly able to keep her mom from interfering when Tommy shows up by using her powers to lock her up in her prayer closet and welding the lock shut. She and Tommy go to prom and are greeted by Tommy's friends, George and his date, Erica. They all appear to be having a great time, but we can see Billy and Chris getting their diabolical plan into place, which includes working with people who handled Prom King and Queen to rig the election, so Carrie wins and will be standing under the bucket where the blood falls. Tommy and Carrie win King and Queen after about a minute of them standing on the stage and Carrie having her moment in the sun. The blood flowed. The video of Carrie in the locker room was shown on the projection screen in the gym. The bucket that held the pig's blood also fell onto Tommy, killing him. Carrie also saw Billy's shades close to where the bucket was rigged, so she knew it was them. This scene is just heartbreaking. So in both the original and this, it plays out pretty much the same way, with Carrie being especially nervous and unsure of what to do, and Tommy sort of walking her through it, and she begins to really enjoy herself. And you can't tell they do really like each other. And it seems like everything is looking up, and as Robert De Niro once said, it's better to be king for a night than a schmuck for life. And that's exactly what's going on here. She is getting almost everything she wants, almost like a dream.
And but I mean, it almost... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, the first time we see her as genuinely happy is when she's, doing things like making her dress for prom and, at the prom with, a really well-meaning guy. So, she's actually happy for the first time in her life during this, so...
Yeah, and, then after, she really is, everything is perfect, blood gets spilled on her, and she's humiliated, and everyone starts laughing at her. Now, there are some changes. There's some things about the original that might seem cheesy to a modern audience, mainly because De Palma sometimes likes to get artsy with it. But one thing is, during the scene where everyone starts laughing at her, it's even the gym teacher who starts laughing at her, which is a very bad scene. And I like the change that she didn't, because even in the original, it never really made sense to me. But it's just this moment where everybody in the world has just completely turned their back on her, and she just snaps, and she becomes the vengeful god that her mom talks about, killing all the people who have wronged her. And it is the case with most remakes that I will almost always prefer the original, but in this case, I do really like this scene as far as doing its own thing.
Like in this version, the gym teacher didn't laugh though, right?
Yeah, she didn't.
Okay.
And you can see Tommy is pissed as hell, and the gym teacher tries to defuse the situation. Now, whether the gym teacher is doing what she's doing out of pity or out of actual compassion is, I guess, up to the person. But the shit eventually hits the fan, and Carrie snaps. She becomes furious, and she terrorizes the school. She slams the doors shut so no one can leave, slams tables and chairs into people. She also turns sprinklers on and cuts power cords to electrocute people. Only some students left the school alive. She did, however, avoid hurting the gym teacher. When Carrie saw Chris and Billy leaving, she followed them on foot and destroyed some things they threw away. I think the most, the most heartbreaking scene is how Tommy dies as a direct result of this prank. Like, if nobody knew that Carrie had telekinesis, Tommy still would have died. Like, did you notice that? Because the bucket fell because of the ropes. Like,
right.
That was completely devoid of anything she did.
Right. And I mean, that was part of what caused her to snap.
Yeah, and so then it's a thing with this film and the original that there's a sense of almost perverse glee that you get from seeing all these people get exactly what they deserve to a degree. And the concept of a bullied, lonely kid finally getting their revenge by killing a bunch of people in a school setting is maybe a bit uncomfortable in our current day and age, but this is still a great movie to watch because it somehow predicted the culture of sort of school shootings and things like that. And she then follows Billy, and as the couple are driving, they see Carrie in the road and try to run her over, but she was able to stop the car and kill Billy. But Chris took control of the wheel and tries to run her over again, but instead Carrie was able to use her power to and the momentum of the car to make her crash into a gas station. Chris died with her face went through the windshield, but Carrie then set them both on fire, telekinetically cutting the telephone pole so it fell into gasoline. After all this, Carrie went home and took a bath to wash all the blood off. While bathing, she sobs and curls up in a ball and just says, "I'm sorry," a few times. She then finds her mom and pretends to console her, but actually tries to kill her by stabbing because she thinks her daughter is possessed. Carrie defends herself by using her powers to stab her mom with all sorts of cutlery. Sue Snell soon after arrives at the house and tries to get Carrie out of the house. Since Carrie is so guilt-ridden at her killing her mother, she makes the house collapse on itself. Sue is unable to convince Carrie to leave, but Carrie does put her hand close to Sue's stomach and just says, "It's a girl." She slings Sue out of the house with her powers. Sue watches as the house falls and Carrie is killed. This scene is also a hard one because she thinks she's finally getting the love from her mother that she deserves, but it was all a trick, just like the prom was, for people to try to give Carrie what they think she deserves. Earlier in the film, the bullies are able to justify their actions by saying Carrie and her mother always said that they were all going to hell except those two. But I don't imagine Carrie ever said anything like that, and giving the bullies weird justification never really made sense to me because, sometimes just bad shit happens to good people for no reason, and that's just sort of the end of it. But, again, Sue and Tommy and Mr. Jordan were just three people trying to help out someone who looked like they were in need, and unfortunately they got everything taken away from them. In the final scene, it transitions to Sue testifying about the previous incidents, and I believe the book called it the Carrie Commission. It was a group of people investigating the incident. And as a olive branch, she sort of gives a flower to Carrie's grave, and Sue insists she knows what she saw that night and that Carrie is not the monster people think she is. When Sue gets to Carrie's grave, the word "Carrie White burns in hell" is spray painted on it. Sue leaves the flower and walks away. Then the tomb breaks and we can hear Carrie screaming before credits roll. I don't know if that's meant to mean that Carrie is actually burning in the literal hell, or in the original, Sue Snell took a flower to the grave and then a hand popped out and tried to grab her, but that turned out to just be a dream. So I don't know if this is a dream too. About the final scenes at the mom house, we can see that police and firefighters and ambulances are already on the scene before Carrie even leaves, and she's at her home for well over 20 minutes. So shouldn't the police be hey Bob, we got about 200 witnesses saying this person carried it. You think we should head over to her house?
And they were probably just hell no.
Yeah, that's the end of the movie. I really didn't want to go too terribly hard on this movie, because in all honesty, I really did enjoy it. Brian De Palma's original, though, will always be one of my favorites. And but this movie, I think, is great in its own right. It's just not quite there. What do you have to say about the movie?
I thought there was a shit ton of blood in this movie.
Yeah.
You've got the pig's blood, Carrie getting her first period, all the murders. It's lots of blood.
Yep, lots and lots of blood.
And I also thought it was just how somebody spray painted Carrie White burns in hell, and then it shows in the end that she's probably actually still alive, and she's just all like, "You want to bet?" And I mean, I'm kind of surprised though at the part when Carrie told Sue that she was pregnant through her telekinesis right before she brought the house down. I'm kind of surprised Sue wasn't just like, you think you could maybe also use your telekinesis to get rid of this for me, just before you bring the house down. It's like, come on, I'm just gonna have a doctor do it anyway if you don't. So, but yeah, overall, I thought it was a good movie. I'm glad it was the first. It was the first one I saw. It's kind of funny. This was actually Stephen King's first film adaptation to one of his books, so it was a first for a lot of people. And
wait, you mean it was made by Stephen King?
No, it was the first one of his books that somebody made into a movie.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, and also there was actually this funny. I don't know if any of you have ever watched Jimmy Kimmel's Mean Tweets, but it's essentially where celebrities read mean tweets that were written about them, like on his show. And Chloe Grace Moretz was on it, and somebody wrote, "Chloe Grace Moretz looks like my asshole. Seriously, she is not good looking whatsoever." And then Chloe just responded to this by saying, "Well, you must have a really bleached asshole or something."
I like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as ratings, I would probably give this movie, I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
I'll give it a 7 out of 10 too.
Well, anyway, guys, this has been, I am Jack Ellis.
And I'm Matt Ellis.
And this has been Oh the Horror. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.